May 2018, 11. 1. Choose any two of the following passages from the Quran, and a. Briefly describe the main themes in each passage. 4. b. Briefly explain the importance of these themes in a Muslim's. 4. A&S. A. Themes. 1. 6.101 to 103. The three verses are part of Surah Al-An'am, a late Makkan surah. Theme of the verses is God's absolute uniqueness. They were revealed to prepare the Muslims to interact with the Christians and Jews living in Medina who had corrupted the belief of Tawhid. The passage begins with the word, Badi, that refers to God's power to create anything out of nothing. He only commands be and it so happens. It proceeds by rejecting any false belief of God having a son or a consort because he is far beyond any such needs or relation. The next verse stresses on God being the sole creator and having power to dispose of all affairs. These unmatchable attributes convince the Muslims to worship none but Him. Verse 103 refers to God's absolutely sublime nature that keeps humans from conceptualizing Him in any way. The verse further mentions His ability to have knowledge of all things. This is endorsed by another Quranic verse that says, "For God is He who understands the finest mysteries." Two. 41.37. This verse is from Surah Fussilat Ha-Mim, an early Makkan surah, revealed to the Prophet after the conversion of Hazrat Hamza. The Prophet was in the Kaaba where the Makkans were trying to bribe him and get rid of the jinns they thought had affected the Prophet. The surah was recited in response to their ridiculous views. It, therefore, countered the corrupted Makkans' belief of adoring God by way of bowing before the sun and the moon. The verse describes Tawhid by referring to the heavenly bodies and the cyclic pattern of day and night. It forbids worshipping them as they are merely reflection of God's powers over them. Their magnanimity and glow teach the people of wisdom the immense and immeasurable powers of their Creator, so the verse teaches that all creatures represent God's omnipotence, omniscience, and wisdom. The Quran supports the same theme by saying, "Behold, in the creation of the heavens and earth, in the alternation of the night and the day, are signs for the people who are wise." 2:164, Al-Baqarah. Three. Surah 114. This is the last surah of the Quran revealed together with Surah 113. Both are called Al-Mu'awwizatan, the two protectors. Some traditions declare them to be the Makkan surahs, but relatively stronger sources prove them to be Madaniyan. Both teach Muslims not to have any fears of the supernatural and the unknown, the internal and external evils that may affect them. Surah 113 mentions God's protection from the visible evils. This surah, on the other hand, reassures Muslims of God's powers to protect them against the invisible or internal evil forces. Repetition of God's attributes in the first three verses implies God's special bond with humans. The remaining verses warn against Satan and mention his method of enticing humans. For this reason, the Quran repeatedly declares, "Verily Satan is an avowed enemy to man." 12:5, Yusuf. B. Importance of the themes. 1. 6.101103. This passage helps Muslims clearly understand the belief of Tawhid in terms of God's unique nature and powers. Its main objective is to emphasize on monotheism and exclusive divine powers as against polytheism and paganism. Muslims are taught to believe in God's absolute oneness that had been corrupted by the misguided communities repeatedly in the past. Thus it removes any trace of confusion about God's entity from the hearts and minds of Muslims. The Quran reminds Muslims God's omniscience repeatedly, and He is with you wheresoever you are, 57:4, Al-Hadid. Similarly, another verse reinforces this in these words, for we are nearer to him, man, than his jugular vein, 50:16, Kaf. It therefore removes any confusion about God's personification and configuration in order to keep the belief in Tawhid intact and pure. According to the Mufassirin commentators of Quran, when this surah was being revealed, 70,000 angels were assigned to accompany it. Therefore its recitation has a strong enlightening impact on the hearts of Muslims as they remain away from satanic misguidance. 2. 41.37. This verse urges 3. Surah 114. His first word, Qul say, requires Muslims to be obedient to God, as that is the only way to seek His refuge against evil. A genuine obedience removes any arrogance towards God or a false belief of having control over their destinies. Once, the Prophet was riding a mule along with a companion. When the mule stumbled, the companion said, "May Satan perish." The Prophet said, "Do not say that. It encourages Satan," and he says, "I knocked with my strength." But if you say, "In the name of God," Satan is dwarfed and becomes like a fly. This means the remembrance of God guarantees defeat of Satan. The surah tells Muslims to beware of Satan injecting evil thoughts in their hearts. Therefore, they follow the Prophet's tradition by reciting the last two surahs regularly before going to bed. Regular recitation of the last two surahs acts as an antidote against all satanic forces, however stronger they might be. This is because of the fact that God has ultimate control over all forces. This first word, Qul say, requires Muslims to be obedient to God, as that is the only way to seek His The Quran teaches Muslims about their relationship with God. Write about this relationship using the passages you have studied. 10. B. God gave humankind guidance and teachings. Why does the Quran lay emphasis on the need to gain knowledge? 4. A. Each of the 5 passages set for special study describes in its own way how God has been kind to humans, and how humans should respond to His favors. Surah 1, Al-Fatiha, states God's status as the Supreme Lord of the entire universe who deserves all praise. He is the ultimate and the best source of mercy and guidance, and He alone will judge all humans on the day of resurrection. Surah 99 reminds humans of God's powers to destroy the universe, but in this surah God has been portrayed as sustainer of all the worlds. Humans, in turn, need to worship Him, and seek His mercy and forgiveness. They should remember that God is only most merciful but also just. He will dispense immaculate justice for all on the final day. Therefore, humans should turn to him for guidance to the right path that is contained in the Quran and Sunnah. They should follow the teachings of these sources of ultimate guidance and salvation from the torment of hellfire. They should strengthen their bond with God by observing the 5 pillars and moral teachings of Islam. 2:21-22, the 2 verses of Al-Baqarah, describe the flawless arrangements made by God, the physical and spiritual growth of humankind. The verses draw human attention to God being the sole creator of all generations and races. He does not abandon his servants after creating them, but provides them means of sustenance by a phenomenal cycle of rain, crop production, and shelter. Thus, this passage resembles the passage 96:1-5 that also refers to how God enabled humans to acquire knowledge, both worldly and divine. Humans are expected to be grateful to him by preserving the environment and by not associating partners with one supreme God. They should worship him and acknowledge his immense bounties. First 5 verses of Surah Al-Alaq, 96:1-5, were revealed to the Prophet as an answer to the queries he had in his mind. He used to think about God's relation with humankind. God sent these verses to explain how he created humans from a very low origin and then matured him to acquire knowledge. Whereas the passage 2:21-22 talks about God's powers to provide food and shelter to humans, this passage refers to God's favor of granting humans the ability to acquire knowledge. This trait of humans made them superior over other creatures who are unable to read and write. God also sent the divine knowledge for their success in both the worlds. Humans should, therefore, acquire knowledge in order to identify the purpose of their living. They should also spread knowledge so that collective human welfare is ensured. Surah 99, Al-Zilzal, outlines the events of the end of time. It mentions Earth becoming a witness on the Day of Judgment to tell God how humans used or misused Earth and its resources. It reminds them their duties towards God and the environmental comforts he created for humankind. Surah 114 discusses God's powers to protect humans from evils, while this surah tells humans how to beware of the consequences of their actions on the earth. Humans should realize this by not damaging the environment and by following the guidance contained in the Quran and Sunnah. They should express thanks to God for being so caring towards them, and develop a sense of accountability before God for all their actions. Surah 114, Al-Nas, is the concluding surah of the Quran, and is believed to have revealed together with Surah 113. As both have the same theme, they are called Al-Muawwadhatain, or the 2 protectors. This surah warns humans of the evil forces around them to which all are vulnerable. These unholy forces are led by Satan, who is assisted by his followers that include both humans and jinns. The passage 2:21-22 mentions God's favors for the survival of humans, but this surah alerts humans about the forces that can distract them from the right path. It teaches humans that only God can protect them from all satanic powers, as he is all-powerful. 2:21-22 mentions these devilish elements have been created to test humans, and the only way of getting through these tests is to strengthen ties with the Almighty God. Thus, this jihad bil nafs, spiritual jihad, is a lifelong struggle against Satan. Humans should seek God's protection by remembering and obeying him. Salat is the best means of remembering God, as is stated elsewhere in the Quran, and establish salat in order to remember me. 2014, Toha. However, recitation of the Quran and observing other pillars of Islam are also effective antidote against Satan. B. The first Quranic revelation begins with the command to read, Iqra. This shows how important it is for humans to gain knowledge. By acquiring knowledge, humans are able to identify God, their duties towards him and towards the fellow humans. Knowledge enables them to think about their purpose of living. The Quran repeatedly mentions the benefits of knowledge. At one place, it links knowledge with the creation of humankind. He has taught the Quran. He has created man. He has taught him how to express himself. 55:1-4, Al-Rahman, this means knowledge is the tool of expressing oneself. Humans need to express whatever good they have learned in the form of secular and spiritual knowledge. This enables them to guide others to follow the Quran and Sunnah. The Prophet, therefore, instructed all Muslims, to acquire knowledge is the duty of every Muslim man and Muslim woman. 3a. How did Islam grow in the years between the Prophet's first revelation and his first public preaching in Mecca? 10b. How can the behavior of the first converts to Islam provide an example for Muslims today? 4. A. The Prophet received his first revelation, 96:1-5, al-Alaq, in the cave of Hira in 610 AD when he was 40. He narrated the whole experience to Hazrat Khadija, R.A., his wife and Walker bin Nawfal. He told Hazrat Muhammad that he had been formally granted prophethood. Then there was a pause of some weeks. It is endorsed by a hadith reported by Ibn Sa'd on the authority of Hazrat Abdullah bin Abbas, R.A. The Prophet would remain anxious and restless during this interval between revelations, Fatra al-Wahy. He, however, would see here Hazrat Jibreel during this interval. Then God revealed the verses of Surah 74, Al-Mudaththir, O you wrapped covered in cloak, rise and warn, and magnify your Lord, and purify your garments, and keep away from the idols. 74:1-5, Al-Mudaththir. Thus was Prophet commanded to warn his people of the consequences of shirk, polytheism, and other evil practices prevailing in Makkah in the Jahiliyyah, age of ignorance. Accordingly, he started the Dawa, preaching, from his home. Hazrat Khadija, R.A., became the first convert, followed by the Prophet's slave Hazrat Zayd bin Haritha, R.A., and his cousin Hazrat Ali bin Abu Talib, R.A. At the same time Hazrat Abu Bakr, R.A., became the first adult convert. He had become Prophet's friend when he met him for the first time in Dar al-Nadwa when both were quite young. He is reported to have embraced Islam without any hesitation and also influenced other important figures such as Hazrat Uthman, R.A., Hazrat Talha, R.A., Hazrat Zubair, R.A., Hazrat Sa'd bin Abi Waqqas, R.A., and Hazrat Abd Rahman bin Auf, R.A. The Prophet continued to preach secretly by way of these early converts, and the number of conversions grew slowly but steadily. Other important converts included Abu Ubaidah, and Bilal, Ja'far, and Zubayr. However, none of his uncles embraced Islam, though Abu Talib continued to protect him. The revelations in this period were about Tawhid, belief in the hereafter, being decent to women and the poor, and offering salat, regular prayer. Salat, in those days, was offered twice a day, only morning and evening. He is also reported to have been taught the method of wudu ablution by Hazrat Jibreel. After about 40 conversions, he received this revelation, and admonish your nearest kinsman. 26:214, Al-Shu'ara. He told Hazrat Ali about the divine command for which he asked Ali to prepare a meal and call the members of Banu Abdul Muttalib. So, about 40 to 45 relatives, including all his uncles, attended the dinner. He addressed them by saying, I celebrate God's praise. O sons of Abdul Muttalib, I know of no Arab who has come to his people with a nobler message than mine. I bring you the best of this world and the next. Allah has commanded me to call you unto him. Which of you will help me in this, and be my brother and mine executor and my successor among you? When nobody spoke, Hazrat Ali stood up and said, O Prophet of God, I will be your helper in this. The men laughed at the Prophet, but his aunt, Safia, embraced Islam with her son Zubayr. al-Fadl, wife of Abbas, is believed to be the second woman to accept Islam after Hazrat Khadija. Her sisters Maymuna, Salma, and Asma also became Muslims. Accordingly, the Prophet decided to preach publicly. One day he ascended the Safa hill of Makkah and assembled Makkans there. He then addressed them, You see, if I were to tell you that there were some horsemen in the valley planning to raid you. They replied, Yes, we have only witnessed the truth from you. Zubayr. al-Fadl, wife of Abbas, is believed to be the second woman to accept Islam after Hazrat Khadija. Her sisters Maymuna, Salma, and Asma also became Muslims. Abu Talib said, "We love to help you, accept your advice and believe in your words. I shall protect and defend you." Abu Lahab retorted to Abu Talib, "I swear by God that this is a bad thing. You must stop him before others do it." But Abu Talib reiterated his claim of protection. This event is called Diyawat Eid al-Ashura. Soon the Prophet received another command, "Therefore, expound openly by that which you are commanded, and turn away from polytheists." 15 hours 94 minutes, Al-Hijjah. Accordingly, the Prophet decided to preach publicly. One day he ascended the Safa hill of Makkah and assembled Makkans there. He then addressed them, "You see, if I were to tell you that there were some horsemen in the valley planning to raid you." They replied, "Yes, we have only witnessed the truth from you." He said, "I am a warner to you before a severe torment." Abu Lahab quickly replied, "Perish you all the day. Have you summoned us for such a thing?" The Prophet, though shocked, continued his speech asking Quraysh to abandon idol worship, believe in resurrection and live a pious life. The crowd outrightly rejected the message of God delivered by his messenger. Soon, he received Surah 111, Al-Lahab, that promised a horrible punishment for Abu Lahab. Thus began the most crucial phase of his prophetic mission, and he started to address the idolaters at public gatherings and assemblies. B. Muslims should observe self-restraint when they are mistreated by anyone. They may be ridiculed or insulted by abusive language, but they should not get angry. Instead, they should stay calm and pray for the guidance of their insulators to the right path. In many countries, it has become difficult for Muslims to practice their faith as the so-called Islamophobia is being used as an excuse to target Muslims. In such circumstances, Muslims should not feel disheartened and should believe in God's help. They should reassure themselves and their fellow Muslims as instructed by the Quran, by the time, through ages. Man is surely in a state of loss. Except for those who counsel each other to hold on to truth and counsel each other to be steadfast. 103:1-3, Alas, they should carry on their noble mission of da'wah or peaceful preaching of Islam. Thus, their chances of success will increase. 4a. Write an account of the main events in the life of Abu Bakr during the life of the Prophet. 10b. How can Muslims use the example of Abu Bakr in showing loyalty to their friends and colleagues? 4a. Hazrat Abu Bakr was a rich merchant of Banu Taym branch of Quraysh. The Prophet is reported to have met him in Darul al-Nadwa when both were quite young. He became a close friend of the Prophet as he led a pious life even during the Jahiliyyah age of ignorance. The Prophet acknowledged Hazrat Abu Bakr's quickness for conversion by saying, "Whenever I invited people to God, everyone thought over it and hesitated at least for a while except Abu Bakr, who accepted my call the moment I put it before him." The Prophet changed his name from Abdul Kaba to Abdullah. His titles were Abu Bakr, Al-Siddiq and Atiq. He performed meritorious services for Islam. He purchased and set slaves free in then way of Islam, e.g. Hazrat Bilal and Hazrat Zanira, the Roman slave girl who had been believed to torture by then pagans. Hazrat Abu Bakr suffered persecutions and once, when he saved the Prophet in the Kaaba, he was pulled by his hair. On another occasion, he was beaten together with Hazrat Talha. He influenced In Medina, Hazrat Abu Bakr became a close advisor to the Prophet and remained with him on all important occasions, e.g. battles, Treaty of Hudaybiyah and conquest of Makkah. In the Battle of Badr he shared a camel with Hazrat Umar and Hazrat Abd Rahman bin Auf. In the Battle of Uhud he was part of the human shield that encircled the Prophet, protecting him against the pagans. In the Battle of Hunain, he called the fleeing Muslims back to the battlefield. He placed all his wealth at the disposal of the Prophet and said, "For my family I have left God and his Prophet." When Hajj became obligatory, the Prophet appointed him Amir-i-Hajj to lead the Muslims. During the last days of his life, he made him Imam to lead the daily prayer. Hazrat Abu Bakr was the one who declared the demise of the Prophet and then calmed down the Muslims by saying, "Whoever among you worshipped Muhammad, let him know that Muhammad is dead, but whoever worshipped God, let him know that God is alive and will never die." Then he decided this verse, "And Muhammad is just a messenger. There had been messengers before him." 3:144 Al-Imran. Hazrat Abu Bakr is rightly called the savior of Islam because he played vital role in the growth of Islam. He showed his loyalty and sincerity by embracing Islam without least hesitation. He saved the Prophet from persecutions by himself being tortured. He saved Islam by saving the poor and slave converts like Hazrat Bilal. He protected the Prophet in the cave Thor, and the Prophet admired his role by saying, "You are my companion in the cave and my companion at the fountain of Kauthar in paradise." While most of the Muslims were unhappy over the terms of the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, Hazrat Abu Bakr strengthened their faith by saying, "He is the apostle of God, and God will never degrade him." He guarded the fundamental belief of Islam regarding the mortality of all humans, by telling Muslims that the Holy Prophet was no more alive. He recited 3:144 that says, "And Muhammad is just a messenger. There were messengers before him that passed away. So, if he is dead or slain, will you turn back on your heels?" This had a dramatic impact and the Muslims accepted the sad fact. B. Muslims today can demonstrate loyalty to their friends by helping them, morally or materially. They can support them in difficult times even though they themselves may incur problems while doing so. They can give them sincere advice for their business or other projects. They can extend interest-free loan so that they are no more a burden on society. Hazrat Abu Bakr had given his she-camel, Kaswa, to the Prophet, and never accepted any money from the Prophet for it. Muslims today can imitate this generosity of Hazrat Abu Bakr while strengthening their friendly ties with their colleagues or friends. They can choose any item of a better quality for their friends as they do for themselves. In this regard they should act upon this hadith, "None of you truly believes unless he desires for his brother that what he desires for himself." Such generosity of heart will promote bilateral relations based on honesty and sincerity. 5a. Describe in detail the roles of Halima and Abu Talib in the early years of the Prophet's life. 10b. From these relationships, what can be learnt about keeping family ties? 4. A. Hazrat Halima bint Abu Duaib. The Holy Prophet was born as orphan child of Hazrat Amina bint Wahab and Abdullah bin Abdul Muttalib in 570 AD, the year of the elephant. After being nursed by Thuwaybah, the slave girl of Abu Lahab, he was given in the nursing care of Halima bint Abi Duaib, a Bedouin woman from Banu Asad bin Bakr, a clan of Hawazin tribe, as was the tradition of the time. The Prophet's years of infancy had a pleasant effect on his health as he developed a strong physique. He also became familiar with the pure Arabic tongue, for which Banu Asad was famous, and this helped him become a wonderful orator. He had one foster brother, Abdullah, and 3 foster sisters, Anisa, Hudayfa and Al-Shama. Thus, God arranged for the Prophet's familiarity with the sibling relationship. He was weaned at the age of 2 and Halima took him back to his mother. However, she requested Amina to let baby Muhammad stay with her for some more years. In fact, Halima, in addition to the fear of the plague, wanted the blessings that the Prophet had brought to continue. Her livestock became active and productive. Amina allowed her to take back Muhammad. Several months later, a mysterious incident took place. Halima's son told her that 2 men in shining white garments took hold of Hazrat Muhammad and cut open his chest. They removed his heart, cleaned away a black clot and washed his heart and chest in pure snow from a golden platter. Halima rushed to look for young Muhammad. She found him a good condition though a bit pale. She was shocked by this incident and returned Hazrat Muhammad to his mother when he was about 6. The Prophet, later, explained this experience as part of purification of prophetic messengers. Hazrat Abu Talib. After the death of Abd al-Muttalib and the Prophet's mother, Hazrat Amna, Hazrat Abu Talib became guardian of the Prophet because the eldest uncle, al-Harith, was not that well off. He showered fatherly love on the Prophet, and it is acknowledged by the Quran, "Did he, God, not find you an orphan and give you shelter and care?" Surah 93, Al-Duha. In his youth, the Prophet used to tend to the flocks of Abu Talib. At the age of 12, the Prophet went on a trade journey with Abu Talib and met with Barira the monk who foretold of his prophethood. At the time of Hazrat Khadija's proposal of marriage, the Prophet consulted with his uncle and, therefore, took the responsibility of young Ali bin Abu Talib to ease his father's burden. Hazrat Abbas, on the advice of the Prophet, took Hazrat Ja'far in his custody, leaving Hazrat Aqil with Abu Talib. He attended the feast of Du al-Ashira, hosted by the Prophet, along with his brothers Hamza, Abbas, Abu Lahab and Zubair. He assured his support for the Prophet despite Abu Lahab's strong opposition to Hazrat Muhammad. Abu Talib continued to support and protect his nephew even when the Quraysh became hostile towards him. Once he exclaimed to the Prophet, "Save me and yourself, and do not put a greater burden on me than I cannot bear." The Prophet replied, "O uncle, by God I swear, even if they put the sun in my right hand and the moon in my left, I shall not abandon my mission until God has vindicated it or caused me to perish in the process." Impressed by the strong determination of the Prophet, he strengthened his support for his prophetic mission. The Quraysh even tried to bribe Hazrat Abu Talib. They offered him to leave the Prophet and adopt Umara bin al-Walid bin al-Mughira, the most handsome youth in Makkah. He was also impressed by the Prophet's refusal to a set of attractive offers made by the Quraysh to him in order to keep him from spreading Islam. He had a strong poetic taste and is reported to have composed some of the earliest Naat's poetry in praise of the Prophet. Together with the Prophet and the other Muslims, he suffered the social and economic boycott imposed by the Quraysh from 616 to 619 AD. Hazrat Abu Talib died in the 10th year of prophethood and was buried in the cemetery of Jannatu el-Amula in Makkah. The year was observed as the year of grief by the Prophet, who was deeply grieved at the loss of his uncle and the beloved wife Hazrat Khadija. The Prophet became more vulnerable before his Makkan enemies as he had lost tribal protection after Abu Talib's death. According to the Sunni sources, he did not formally embrace Islam, though the Shia Muslims have totally different views about this issue. B. Halima was the foster mother of the Prophet, but he respected her a lot. He always addressed her as, "my mother." This teaches Muslims that blood relationship is not a precondition for extending respect to those who take care of us. Anyone who loves us, brings up our children, is to be accorded due respect as an acknowledgement of their services for us. Similarly, Hazrat Abu Talib brought up the Prophet like his son, and stood by him in his prophetic mission like a firm rock without caring about the consequences. He finally sacrificed his life while suffering hunger and thirst for the Prophet's mission. This teaches Muslims to fulfill their commitments and be ready to pay any price for doing this. Muslims should show respect to such caring relatives and in return for their unwavering affection and support. Muslims should reciprocate by showing love for such guardians.